Well, what an honor it is to be here. Thanks, Jen. Thank you so much to the team of YSC. I first want to say I was sitting in that very seat that all of you are in probably about 6 or 7 years ago when I was first diagnosed. And I remember sitting there, and Julie Clark, she's the founder of Baby Einstein, she was actually on this stage speaking. And I remembered feeling so inspired hearing her speak that I hope that I can do the very same for each one of you that are sitting out there today. Memorial Day weekend, 2008, I was 31. My children were 6 and 4, and I was just overcoming the battle with my mom with her journey with brain cancer. I had an achiness in my left breast, and I remember asking my mom what it could be. And she had the initial reaction of, "Have you given yourself a breast exam?" And I sat there for a minute and thought, I'm only 31 years old, why would I need a breast exam? But with her guidance, I gave myself an exam. And immediately, under my left armpit, I felt a small nodule. The next morning, I called my OBGYN and scheduled an appointment with her. And when I met with her, her first response to me was, "I really think you're overreacting. I know that your mom just went through this battle herself. You're only 31. It's probably a fibroadenoma. You're going to be fine." But it was my persistence that allowed her to order the mammogram. Thank you. Upon receiving that mammogram, they decided to do an immediate ultrasound. And within that ultrasound came a biopsy. And shortly thereafter, I heard those words, "You have cancer." I underwent a double mastectomy with immediate reconstruction and 6 months of chemotherapy. And I'm sure many of you can attest to how challenging the chemotherapy treatments are. And in fact, the regimen that I got, they no longer give because it's so toxic. And I'll tell you a moment I will never forget. I was sitting at home, sick as could be from the treatments, laying on the couch, had no energy. And my 6-year-old daughter had walked up to me, and she says, "Mom, can you please tuck me into bed tonight?" And I thought, Callie, I am so tired. I don't even know if I can get up the stairs to tuck you in tonight, sweetheart. And she looked at me with her little blue eyes, and she says, "Mommy, you're always so sick and tired." And I thought to myself, oh, God, give me the strength to get up the stairs to tuck her into bed. I said, "Go ahead, Callie, Mommy will be up there in just a minute." So as I went up the stairs, one step at a time, I started to walk up the hallway. And I can see her bedroom right from the hallway, and I see her little body. And she's kneeling down at her bedside, and she's got her arms crossed, and she's praying. And she's saying, "Dear God, please give Mommy the strength to fight breast cancer." Immediately, I fell to my knees. I, too, asked God for the strength to fight breast cancer. And as you can see, I did. I was excited that I was pronounced with no evidence of disease, and I had this overwhelming desire to give back. At the time, I was using an organization's website called mylifeline.org. Their organization focuses on a way to communicate with family and friends as you're going through treatment. So I'd reached out to the founder and I'd said, "What can I do to give back? I want to share my story. I want to make a difference. There's a lot of great nonprofit organizations out there. Can I just bring my talent to you?" And she said, "God, I'd love to have more Kim Jewetts call here and ask for help. Absolutely, we'll take your help." So I started to volunteer, and I had this great idea. I called my best friend who was pregnant at the time, and I called my sister, and I said, "I have this great idea. I want to hold a golf event, and I want to fundraise for my Lifeline." And they said, "Wow, Kim, we love the idea, but there's one problem. You don't even know how to golf. How are you going to have a golf event?" And I said, "We'll figure it out, right? We'll figure it out." So we held the golf event, and shortly after, I actually came on staff with my Lifeline. And part of my role was really working in fundraising and development to fund the programs and initiatives for patients and their families. And I felt as if I had finally gotten past the fear of diagnosis. And I was giving back, and I was using my story to inspire, and I was helping patients and their families. And then 3.5 years later, the disease came back. It came back in my chest wall. I was 35. My kids were 8 and 10 at the time. And it was another game changer. This time, the biggest fear that I had was I going to be there for my kids? Was I going to be able to see them grow? But I was so determined to fight again, and that my story was going to be that much more empowering and inspiring, and I was going to make a mark. I had a really challenging decision. I had to lose my implants. If you remember, the first time I was diagnosed, I had a double mastectomy. This time I had to lose the implants in order to radiate. And I'll remember my daughter coming up. She was at an age where she understood, and she looked at me and she said, "Mommy, does it bother you that you don't have breasts?" And I looked at her and I thought, wow, this is going to be a pretty big teachable moment, right? And I looked at her and I said, "You know what, Callie? There are people that cannot walk, people that can't talk, people that can't hear or see. My breasts, honey, they don't define me." So as you can tell, I have implants, or not implants, prosthetics, and I'm totally fine with it, right? Doesn't even matter. I decided to resign from my job at the time so that I can focus on my family, focus on my children, help them cope with the disease, because at that time there was so much fear and uncertainty, and were we going to be okay? Was I going to be okay? So over the summer, while I was undergoing chemotherapy, I had a nanny that stayed to help me with the kids, and I thought, what can I do to keep the kids distracted and focused? I wanted them to really do something impactful and find a way to give back, right? And so my son and I went to my doctor's appointment, and the doctor's explaining what red blood cells are and white blood cells are. And at that very moment, my son looks at my doctor and he says, "You know what? Is there something we can do for the cancer center? Because my mom has us like doing all these fun projects for people. Maybe we can do something here." And my doctor said, "Well, you know what? There's these little fleece blankets you can make, and you can tie them, and they keep our patients really warm." And my son said, "Let's do that, Mommy." So we went home and we made a blanket. And that next day I went to treatment. I brought that blanket in, and I saw a woman coming up in a wheelchair. And I immediately had this overwhelming desire to get up and give that blanket to her. And as I proceeded to walk up to her and give her that blanket, her husband and her sister were there, and tears were just floating down her face. About a week later, I got a letter in the mail, and it said, "Dear Callie and Tyler, thank you so much for your thoughtfulness. Kathy's laying here with this blanket on her, and it even matches her fingernails too." And on the back of that posted card was a little note, and it said, "P.S. Kathy died tonight at 11 o'clock. At that moment, I knew that we had done something so profound. I taught my children about how to give back, how to make a difference. Cancer did not define us. And then that project started to spread through all their friends, and the next thing I know, the school was calling and parents were calling and saying, "Can we make blankets?" And I am proud to say that we have continued that project within our community and have donated over 1,000 blankets to all the cancer centers. I completed my treatment, and I am proud to say I was in no evidence of disease. And I had that same, thank you. I had that same desire to get out and make another difference. I had a roadblock, though. I had no college degree. I never finished my college degree. It was discouraging, to say the least. In fact, so many people would ask me, I got to a point of when they asked me, "What college did you go to?" I started to respond with, "I went to the same college that Bill Gates, Michael Dell, and Mark Zuckerberg went to." But I didn't let that roadblock stop me. I launched Kimberly Jewett Consulting. It was a way for me to use my story, my passion, my skill set, and make a difference. And I am so proud that I made that decision, and I didn't let that roadblock stop me. And then I made another difficult decision. I decided to file for divorce. And it was challenging. You know, a lot of people will say you go through cancer and it's really hard on a relationship, not just one diagnosis, but two. And I had all those fears and emotions of, if I file for divorce, what if I end up alone? How am I going to explain having cancer twice? Do I want to hurt somebody like that if I meet them? I have so many unknowns. And the biggest thing that I worried about was how was I going to explain the fact that I didn't have breasts? How was I going to overcome that? How was dating going to be? Was it going to be a new journey for me? Absolutely. But I wasn't going to let the body image affect me. As you can see, I found somebody. I fell in love, and he's here today. And I will tell you the most amazing thing about it is I met somebody who allowed me to be vulnerable, that allowed me to fall in love, and to know that I can be loved, no matter if I was here for a month, 6 months, or 10 years. That's the point of getting through life, to know that you can overcome all of these obstacles. So as you can see, cancer's not defined me. I've overcome cancer twice. I've overcome the roadblock of not having a college degree. I've allowed my story to inspire people. I've gotten divorced. I've fallen in love. So if you were to ask me, what gives you strength? I'd tell you sharing my story, inspiring, empowering, and educating people all along the way. Having my kids tell me how proud they are of me and that their prayers for my recovery will hopefully be forever. And I'm living my passion and my purpose every day. I want to share 3 pieces of advice that I got from my medical oncologist. I went into the office on one of my last visits and I'd said, how do I overcome the fear, the uncertainty, and the lack of control that this diagnosis brings? He said, number 1, have hope. There are new drugs coming to market every single day. Number 2, have faith. I'm a medical doctor, and I do everything in my power medically, but the man above has the final say. And number 3, go home and have a glass of champagne and celebrate every day of your life to the fullest. This is my story. And I want you to pause for a moment and think, what is your story? Are you going to allow this disease to define you, or will you let it inspire you? I encourage you to take something small that you're passionate about and go out and make a difference. Don't let the disease define you, because cancer wins. I had a great conversation with a really good friend of mine. She was 72 years old, fighting metastatic disease. We were talking about courage and hope and what those words meant. And on one discussion, we started to really define what courage was. I want you to leave here with this quote in your mind. Courage is looking fear right in the face and overcoming its adversity. And I know you can all overcome adversity. Some other key takeaways: don't let this disease define you. Always be grateful and count your blessings like I do. Thank you so much.